So let's talk about chicken marketing.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Because if you don't say that term a lot, it's kind of like a funny thing to say out loud. But there's a whole summit around chicken marketing. I've got Nancy Himmelfarb with me. She is the principal at Himmelfarb Sustainability Consulting, helping companies do well and do good, right? What does that mean, do well and do good?
Well, it means, having positive impacts in the world beyond just financial performance, but also having that financial performance. So it's focused on businesses and other organizations. They have to be successful. That's part of what sustainability is, or impact work, but they can have positive impacts generally and succeed as a business.
Yeah,
do well and do good.
Is it fair to say, I think there's, people understand that if you are actually pursuing real sustainability practice, that is actually gonna help you do well. Also, it's kind of like focusing on people before profits. People actually help you grow your business.
Absolutely. And, some people don't agree with the business case, or they question the business case. Yeah. They always want to see, is there that business case? Consistently, the studies are showing that there is the business case, that sustainability, impact, whatever we call it, is all about value creation. Particularly now, it's resilience, securing a supply chain, securing access to your raw materials to make your products. If you don't pay attention to those things, is that business, is it sustainability? It's all one and the same, but there is a real value.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that, I'd love to hear your take on this, but as like consumers, the pull through of customer demand, even if it's a business to business organization, people are just so educated now, they're demanding that their products, their goods, their services are sourced responsibly. Right. And I'm sure that's driving some of the change in thinking too. What are you spending your time sort of advising people on right now?
Well, I think the big issues now are that balance and the tension between the greenwashing, which is, inconsistent, vague, and misleading claims, unverifiable claims related to performance, generally around environmental performance. And then the flip side, the green hushing, which is companies afraid to talk, being a little quiet.
Just not saying anything?
Not saying anything, or backtracking on some of their sustainability goals. There's been a lot of tension between that. So greenwashing, there's a lot of scrutiny, and the Federal Trade Commission has these green guides that defines what is misleading or deceptive, and then the states have implemented those because the guides are voluntary. But there's a lot of lawsuits by consumer protection groups, environmental groups around greenwashing. So for example, net zero claims, the FTC has said, if you don't have some additional information with that, unqualified claims are likely to be deceptive. So JBS and others have been sued around, do they have proof, a plan, and actual things they're doing when you make those claims?
What's a company like that motivated? Why are they motivated to greenwash? Is that from a marketing perspective, for, to sell more products, or like what's the primary motivating factor there?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that JBS or any company is motivated to greenwash, but I think they're some of what gets talked, some of the conversation, people aren't realizing that the credibility and the proof needs to be there, or they're using words loosely without fully understanding.
So maybe they're just not doing the work. They're not quite, putting the period on the sentence, and they're not dotting the lowercase j's.
Yeah, it could be right. They don't have that proof, or they're using, there's a difference between general marketing and branding versus sustainability marketing. You do have to be a little more careful, humble in the tone, more about proof and credibility than you might be with other marketing messages. And so I don't ascribe, impure value, intentions to any company, but I think it's easy for some language to be sort of vague and problematic.
And so where would a company enlist your help? When do they come to you for help?
Well, At various parts, in their journey, right? I find that people, sustainability is confusing and people are afraid and they're overwhelmed by it. Right?
Yeah.
So what I really focus on is the clarity in the language. This is drawing on my background. I was a corporate attorney for many years. I'm all about clarity of words.
That attorney thing probably gives people a lot of confidence when you show up and you're like, I was an attorney.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because people, that's a lot of the times what I feel like marketers are like, we got to get it past legal.
Right.
We got to get it past these, and if you have that brain showing up, it's like,
I think it is very helpful to focus on the words in a way that maybe others who are in the communications field and marketing just might not have seen, and also based on my expertise in this area. So I see the words a little differently. And the other piece is having that focus. So a lot of times companies, big or small, if they get started in sustainability, they might have what I call the kitchen sink approach. And they're doing a smattering of things that might relate, not sure.
What does that look like? Can you give me some specifics of the smattering, the smattering you've seen?
Yeah, so for example, a company might have people like to have travel policies, right? So here's the travel policy to help reduce, emissions and reduce the impact of
planes.
Employee travel. Yeah, sort of manage that.
Okay, so let's talk about chicken marketing.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to say that out loud.
Yeah.
Because if you don't say that term a lot, it's kind of like a funny thing to say out loud. But there's a whole summit around chicken marketing.
Right.
And sustainability.
Yes.
You were just there and you presented on it as a keynote speaker, right? So I get why sustainability is a big thing in agriculture. But I guess, what was that summit like, and kind of what was the focus of the message there?
Yeah, so it was a great collection of conversations, sustainability and sustainability marketing being a piece of that.
Okay.
And I was really helping the marketers understand the backdrop, right? So what is consumer it was all about how sustainability marketing can help build consumer trust. So let's level set on what are we even thinking about with consumer trust? What are the ways that sustainability is a key driver of consumer trust? And then this roadmap to help them sort of apply this to their own organization. I always use this framework I've developed, the 3 V's framework, which is the first V is value. So every company needs to, including in chicken and in any other industry, why does sustainability or responsibility really matter? What is the business value? What's important? That really is important to the business.
So they need to articulate that for themselves somehow?
They do. That's the second V, viewpoint. So articulating a unique, authentic, and engaging viewpoint, positioning statement that reflects that assessment of the value, reflects why it's important. Clarity, and also those, personal benefits, things that people get and care about, right? Yeah. So, absolutely there's urgency around climate change, but telling people we only have a few seasons left to grow our food and, we're too late, we can't reverse climate change 100%. Those, sort of doom and gloom messages are not going to sell your products, right? You need the consumers to be engaged and think, wow, I really believe in this company. I want to support them with my money, I want to tell my friends. And the more consumers and others support your company, of course, the more good you can do in the world, right?
So if we talk about that communication aspect, so you're saying, you're kind of advocating they need to get clarity around the sort of a vision for this. Yeah. What does good look like there? What can we help, whether it's ag companies or other companies, think about doing differently than they're doing right now?
Yeah, so what good looks like is snackable messages, small, bite-sized messages.
For the market, for consumers, for things like social and other different kinds of
around
channels.
What you stand for, what's important, what you're doing. Credibility, of course, is important. So it's interesting. There's always questions around the eco labels, right?
Okay, like a label on a product.
Labels on a product. Yeah. And there are hundreds of eco labels. And while they are one huge benefit, or two benefits, is, one is third-party verification of meeting a certain set of standards, which is fantastic. And it's a nice shorthand, of course.
Yeah. You see that label, and that tells you a lot just by, it's like, okay, there's a stamp there.
Yeah, it tells you a lot. The challenge, though, with labels is people don't understand them. Now, some people do. We can't think of consumers as just one big monolith, right? Some people understand them, but even some of the labels that have been around for years, like organic, people don't fully understand it. Now,
sounds good.
They don't. It does. See, the good thing about organic, USDA organic, people don't have to become experts in the science and understand the specifics. But at least people are convinced that organic is a good thing. So if they could afford organic food, it's an option at the store, sure, we'd love that, right? Other labels have not gotten to that level. So
in terms of like how people understand them at a, like everybody knows what organic is.
Right.
Well, I don't know if they actually know what it is.
They know enough about it.
They know that there is an organic label, and they know that it's good.
And they trust it, right. So an example that I gave at the Chicken Marketing Summit, which was related to, I spoke earlier in the year at the annual meat conference on regenerative agriculture, specifically on a panel there on regenerative agriculture. And there was data presented on consumer opinions of regeneratively produced products. And not surprisingly, a lot of people didn't know what it was. Customer expectations is a huge driver of sustainability, partly because in the US, there isn't a lot of pressure, and there's less pressure now. With the SEC has pulled back, the EPA fund, there's less pressure around sustainability. So it's important to choose those labels that would resonate.
There was a story that we talked about convincing Williams-Sonoma to incorporate recycling content. Is that something you can share about?
Sure. So it's broader than the recycled content. So I was the first full-time lawyer at Williams-Sonoma. This is back many years ago. And so obviously, New York Stock Exchange Company never had lawyers before. There was a lot of legal work to do. But at the same time, I saw an opportunity to focus on sustainability for the company. The company had wanted to own the home, and my tagline and the motto for the program, we were all about greening our home, and I was looking to help our business by helping the environment. So I found...
Was this like your own personal thing that you took on and wanted to do, or was it being pushed by somewhere else?
Yeah, no, this was me.
All you.
This was
Nancy.
Me. Yes.
Go Nancy.
It was really fun. I found champions all through the business to look at things like we set up composting in the corporate cafeteria, green team in the distribution center. We focused on greening the specs for the store builds. Now, it was a challenge because this was zero budget, and I don't mean low, I mean zero budget program.
Zero budget, zero carbon.
Yes. Well, we didn't get to zero carbon, but we were looking at ways. So recycled content in the catalogs was one that I'd encourage. I was just looking for those opportunities and finding people to champion it within the company who could drive it right from the implementation.
Could get on that bandwagon.
And it was really interesting by doing this work. Speaking of catalog paper, an environmental group, Forest Ethics, came knocking on the door of catalog companies, including Williams-Sonoma, questioning paper purchasing policies and where's the recycled content, post-consumer content. And while I hadn't yet convinced anybody to change the content, the composition of the paper they were using, we could at least be at the table to talk to them and recognize we know that this is important for us to identify and focus on ways we can be good corporate citizens, more responsible in terms of our impacts. And then, of course, fast forward many years, the company, of course, has people in that particular role. They do, comprehensive sustainability reports and goals. So, I firmly believe that companies can get started anywhere.
Sure.
Grassroots is great. You always need to have some buy-in from the top.
Yeah.
Whether it bubbles up, my point was I started grassroots, and then you get that buy-in.
So it turned into more of a formal program?
So then it could turn into a formal. Other times it comes from the top, but ultimately getting buy-in among the leaders, buy-in among the board, and everyone in the company. People have to say, I get it, this is why we're doing this is important to us, and I feel good about it, and here's my role, here's how I contribute.
So you're a lawyer, you took this on yourself. I'm kind of curious, even before that, what's your personal story to becoming so involved in sustainability? How'd you get here? What sort of fueled that?
So I've always been interested in it. Even in law school, I wrote an article for our environmental law journal. But I started my career in corporate tax and general corporate law. I really have always believed in companies doing well and doing good, that you have to think of things more broadly than just financial performance. So I don't know how it really occurred to me to do this at Williams-Sonoma, but I'm really glad I did. And then,
but are you at home, like composting and doing? Are you looking for the most organic food when you go to when you go shopping? Is that something that you kind of at home are like heavily invested in, or is it something that it was kind of you saw it more as an opportunity at the corporate level?
Yeah, I'm certainly invested in it to some extent on a personal level, but I also, more important, see it as businesses are the ones that are going to drive big change.
It's the biggest opportunity, yeah.
That's the huge you get when McDonald's changes their beef purchasing, huge ripple effects and influencing broad consumers, what's produced, what's purchased. That's where the real opportunity is to make big impacts, and that's where I focused. And so transitioned into sustainability consulting and impact consulting generally. As a consultant, I can have a broader platform. Yeah.
Have you worked within organizations, like there's sustainability groups within organizations who are focused on this? Do they bring you in as a consultant to help them sort of advance their work at all?
Yeah.
Thinking about those folks, I think sometimes they're so, like when I've interacted with them, they're like firecrackers. They're like passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah.
They have a lot to say. They know their stuff inside and out.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, like to your point, sometimes you can run into that thing where, I don't know if they're, able to communicate, or they're like always connecting with the C-suite the way that they want to.
Right.
And helping them really get their initiatives across and heard, and actually enacted and funded.
Right.
What would you say to how can we help them a little bit, give them a couple practical tips? Are you ever helping them sort of kind of bridge that gap?
Yeah, no, I think that's essential. Yeah. I mean, the silos within companies is a problem generally, but certainly sustainability, it has to have buy-in at the top and not a rubber stamp. I mean, here's our strategy, make it very clear, make it very pointed, showing the business case, why this makes sense, get that buy-in, and keep the board and executives informed. And the board has to understand what is sustainability? Why does it matter? There has to be that general buy-in.
Education.
And the education, and here's what matters and here's what we're doing about it. Make it very straightforward and show the return, right? Yeah. There has to be some ROI.
The business case, the return.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nancy, this is great. I got one more question for you that's a little off topic. I ask everybody this question.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, what is one word or phrase that we should no longer use in the workplace?
Oh, gosh.
Does anything come to mind?
Oh, I don't know.
Anything that you're in your sustainability conversation that you feel like is overused and it's like it's lost its meaning?
Well, I think when people say they're sustainability leaders, it's lost. Everyone talks about innovation. We're all doing innovation. Well, what specifically?
Okay. Well, more clarity, more focus, less generic, less sustainability leaders, and using that term. So Nancy, thank you so much for stopping by and dropping that knowledge. It's been great.
Thank you. Been fun.
Eu fango.